Good evening, everyone. This is San Angela once again on limtv, presenting to you the program called The Tabloid. Thanks for tuning in, and don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. Mainly, this program is to enlighten you about the political, social, and economic issues. In the house, I'm having Mr. Norbert Ekiyakunzire, an architect, a professional one, expert in politics, a Rotarian. He's the Rotary Club of Kira, and I wouldn't talk all much about him. I can give him the opportunity to talk about himself right now. My guest, can you please introduce yourself to these people?
Thank you, Angela. Right?
Yes.
Angela who?
Sanyo Angela.
Sanyo Angela. I'm privileged to be on limtv, and my name is Norbert Ndungu Ekiyakunzire. And like Angela already said, I'm a Rotarian of Rotary Club of Kira.
Yes.
And I'm a concerned citizen about the leadership of the nation. And I'm an agriculturist, and I practice architecture, construction. Anything we should add on?
No, that's a lot. I'm privileged to host you, Mr. As a concerned citizen of Africa as a continent. There is a topic in the house today which says that the fate of youth leadership in Africa as a continent. Nowadays, we've seen many youths want to become leaders. There are some hesitations that come across. But I would like you to tell these people who a youth is, first of all.
Youth, according to, we can say, the international organizations, or even if we can rise them up to country level, a youth is someone who is between the age of 15 and 30.
Yes.
So whether male or female, locality does not matter, as long as you're between the age of 15 and 30, you're considered to be youth. However much in Uganda, some people think even at 40, you prefer to be youth.
Oh, okay, that's very nice. Second of all, who is a youth leader?
A leader, before I go into who a youth leader is,
okay.
A leader is, I believe every human being is a leader. In your own perception, or in your own accord as a human being, you're a leader of your own self.
Yes.
But then, as long as you have the ability to conceive an idea and rally people to buy your idea and lead them into the success story of that idea, then you're a leader. So every people are born leaders. Some are taught or inspired to be leaders. But however much you're born a leader, you need to always get a clear understanding of what leadership is.
Okay.
So, but still, you can be inspired into leadership by your mentors, by your role models, by society in itself.
Okay.
So a youth leader is that person who can inspire others into a positive direction.
That's very nice. What are the qualifications for one to become a youth leader?
As long as you're a breathing human being, you qualify to be a youth leader.
Okay. And okay, as you say that we are all born leaders. Some are inspired, some just bump into leadership, let me say like that. But what are the qualities one should have to become a youth leader, according to your views?
It depends on how you're looking at youth leadership.
Okay.
Is there a group, a school, or an institution for youth leaders?
I don't think so.
So if it's not there, and we've said that every human being qualifies to be a leader, then that means as long as you're in any form, you're accepted as a human being of sound mind,
Yes.
then you qualify to be a youth leader.
Okay, that's very nice. Hope some of us can become
unless there's an institution that says you have to be 2 feet tall, you have to speak this language, or you have to be of this skin complexion. I don't know, but unless there's none, a society like that, then anyone between the age of 15 to 30 qualifies to be a youth leader.
Okay, that's really nice.
Because you have to look at leadership in so many forms. When we look at people in plantations or in farms working, let's say they fall in that category of youth, then they should be a leader amongst them. When you look at prisoners out of cells in the chambers, they have a category or any other person. So even when you find a border stage,
Yes.
there's a leader in charge of borders at that particular stage, or even borders countrywide. So each and every component of society, each and every household, a household or a family is the smallest unit of a government.
Yes.
So even in that small family, there is a leader in it.
Exactly.
It can be the head of a family, or if God forbid that person is deceased, can be the mother. If not, then it should be the firstborn or one of the children. So at each and every specialization of life,
There is a leader.
there is a leader.
Okay, that's really nice.
So I don't know what will qualify people of different categories to be leaders in their groups.
But that's the general overview of one who is a leader. Okay, that's very nice. Hope anyone there can become a leader, according to the Honorable's explanations, right? Thirdly, I would like to ask you, how can we compare youth leadership with the elderly leadership in place in the African continents today?
Thank you. Now, you will remember, you see, in each and everything that you do, you need to have a clear understanding of where it began from, where it is, and where it's going.
Okay.
So, for example, most of the African countries got independence around the 1960s.
Yes.
So, if you talk of the elderly, or people who are, we're looking at people who are in 90s now,
Yes.
right? 90s, 70s, 80s.
80s.
So those are people who have tested the leadership before colonialism. Those are people who have transitioned from the other leadership of, for example, in Africa, we're talking about African Tradition Society. African Tradition Society had its own modes of leadership,
Yes.
modes of control, modes of preservation of nature. So knowledge used to be transferred from individual to individual. However much we had universities, we had schools, we could document, we could write, but in terms of passing on capabilities, they are passed on from individual to individual. So they had that small experience. Because remember, as a human being, when you clock 90, when you get to the age of 90, you tend to go in the other class, in the category that is less functional, if I may say.
Actually, not reasoning that much to the progress of the country.
It depends on context.
Okay.
You find someone who is 90 or 100 and is going to solve for you a situation, a scenario, or give you a way out. It's someone who is 70 or 60 or 50 might not, depending on their experience. Because age are just numbers. That people are 100 and they've never gotten amnesia, they've never gotten any of the elderly diseases. There's someone you're going to find in that age, they are on and off. Some part they've lost it for a certain percentage, let's say 20 or 30. So you cannot discard a human being as long as they're still breathing. Some people are, just by their presence and inspiration, they're a pillar. That's why you find families now taking their elder into elderly homes. Otherwise they would be switching them off or discarding the way we do with computers and other machines that this can no longer function, discard it. But the fact that that person is treasured to that extent.
They have some experience.
There's something
some of us
small,
don't have.
even the way they gaze, or even their skin complexion can communicate. So, any family that has lost an elder will tell you how much they've experienced a huge gap in terms of loss.
Thanks so much, Honorable. Let's have a short commercial break, and don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. We'll be back from a short commercial break. Don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel again. That's just a simple reminder. We love you so much. And back to the point, we're still on the comparison between youth leadership in African continents today with the elderly leadership today. Honorable, can you please clarify more about that?
I think before we went to make some money, I had given you a chronological
overview about leaders.
About the elderly.
Elderly.
So before we compare the elderly on how they are managing leadership, let's get to know what their experience is, what they've seen. I think if we have some Pan-Africanist, General Kahinda Otafiri, he was saying, I think he was delivering a speech somewhere, and he said that what they know, we don't know. What they've experienced, we have not yet experienced. What we've experienced, they have experienced, and there are those things that they know that we do not know. So we should, to some extent, apply the brakes, so that we do not maybe overturn or crash. So that's why I tried to give you a comparison of the lives they've lived, the youth have lived, and the lives the elderly or the older leaders have lived. So they have that experience of the African traditional society, the experience of colonialism, how the colonialists came and brought new forms of leadership and structures of governance. And after independence, when the colonialists handed over the leadership onto the Africans, how have they managed? What have they experienced?
And how far have they
So
gone?
that is it with the elderly. Let's go to the youth. We're looking at 30 years. 30 years, our president in Uganda has been in power for more than 36 years. He's going up to 40 years. So meaning the majority of youth, for example, in Uganda, they've only experienced leadership from one leader, one president.
Exactly.
So how much do they know apart from what they've been taught at school, apart from what they've watched in movies? Remember now, with the current flow of education, parents have given enough care of their families to schools, to teachers. And remember, teachers only give 25%. 70% you get it outside, by yourself or from family and acquaintances and peers.
The environment.
So before we start comparing the two, and how much have the youth led? I think the youngest MP is 28 years.
Yes.
So meaning, apart from that, and the youth MPs and the other leaders in the localities, most of the youth, apart from leading their nursery schools and primary schools and universities, a few youth have been involved in
Leadership.
in the general management of citizens.
Yes.
So they have challenges emanating from lack of experience. You see, experience is two-way. You can be experienced for doing one thing for 10 years. We can be experienced by doing 10 things in 1 year. So the other person has an advantage of time. This person has an advantage of quality. So as we compare the two, we should know that they're in different categories. You might start blaming a frog for its inability to climb a tree. So yes, we want to compare youth leaders, their performance, the performance of the elderly. Most of the youth are televised. They are being led by what they are seeing on television.
And what they are taught in school.
And what they are taught in school. And you realize that someone, if you to weigh, I'm a Pan-Africanist, so you forgive me if I get overboard somehow. How much we're using English. You realize that someone begins nursery school, pre-primary school, 3 years, plus 7 years of primary school, 10, plus 6 years of high school, 16, plus 3 years minimum of higher institution. So someone from age of 18 to 31, they've spent their entire time learning English. Because that is a tree, in Uganda it's omti. So here I just say this is a tree. Then is smell, you know, it's just learning language. So leaders are agents of change. So what are you going to change if you have not yet learned anything new?
You're having no experience.
You haven't learned anything. You have nothing new on the table apart from the different languages. Because I will know the same thing in Runyankore, I will know it in Uganda, in Atesot, in Acholi, in Rwandese, in Swahili, in English, in French, in Chinese. So because maybe we were talking about, maybe if you look at linguistics, I understand. But in terms of their ability to lead, because now we have a lot of defiance ongoing. So if you want to compare youth leadership, we can start from that. They are more defiant, for example. They conclude too much, or easily, or very fast. A good percentage of them are short-sighted.
You only see nearby things.
Because, yes, now it takes us back to my preamble. Of these people have seen a lot. It's like you're putting on black, blue, and white, and red. Imagine you had it's called what? Monochrome. So the experience of someone viewing you when you have multiple colors is different from the one or the other person viewing someone with monochrome, okay, or with single colors, or only two colors. Because now we begin to talk about abstract.
Can you help these people and give them your view about the youth leadership, how it would be if at all a youth is in leadership? Let me say president.
Now, the best youth can do at this stage in life is, one, to get a mentor.
Yes.
Two, to get a role model. And to research. For example, we have a program that we've been running, that has been put on hold up to the next coming year. It's a global leadership empowerment. Under this program, people get to know, or get to realize themselves, get to know who they are, and get their abilities get revealed. So then people should, if you feel like you have a calling, or you're agitated, or you're in a position whereby automatically you have to take on a leadership role. For example, your father, for example, let's look at Sigil. He's become of age. His son, Rajiv, is in charge. I can give a lot of other examples. Or in your family, your mother, your parents have been doing things, and now you're of age, you have to step in and help them. So that's leadership. Or you at home, you run an organization, a company, and time has come, your parents are ailing, you have to step into that leadership. So there's one having a calling into leadership, and there's one that is influenced by society to take on a leadership role. So either way, you're supposed to interest yourself in learning the kind of leader you might be or you are. So that's what youth leaders have. That's what they have to do. They have to interest themselves in becoming successful in leadership.
Okay. As you're running out of time, we've gotten these points that in order to become a youth leader, you should have a mentor, you should have a role model. A role model is a person you would admire to be, just in case you're there. Lastly, Honorable, I would like you to give these people some advice about leadership. How can someone handle leadership in case he's given a chance?
Thank you very much. Now, in case you find yourself in a leadership position, one, you need to get to know who your subjects are, understand their setup, understand what brought them together, what is common amongst your subjects, what brings them together, where are their strengths and weaknesses, and inspire, as a leader, inspire them to be leaders too, because there are different kinds of or types of leadership. Laissez-faire, where you let everyone do as they wish. Democratic form of leadership, where you have to choose who is going to lead you amongst yourself, where is taking the wrong direction or the right direction, as long as it's popular majority. You have to look at coaching, so a kind of a model of leadership. You have to look at transactional, where you have to, when someone does something, you need to give them a tip or something to encourage them. So there are so many modes or types of leadership. So interest yourself to discover the kind of leader you are. So when you get to know the kind of leader you are, and you find that people you're leading are non-democratic, and maybe then you need to now change gear and move from a democratic leader into an autocratic leader. So it depends. Societies are different. There are societies which you can, for example, look at the leadership of Rwanda before genocide and the leadership that came in after a genocide. Could they be different? So scenarios give you, or should dictate, the leadership style that you should pull out of your court. So as a leader, teach yourself or discover the different types of leadership and how best they can be applied. However much you have your own style, you need to know which style to employ at a certain time. Otherwise, it's not mandatory that if you're democratic, everything has to be democratic. Sometimes you're running out of time and a decision has to be made.
Okay. Thanks so much, Honorable. I'm very humbled. I hope our perspectives are changed and hope our lives are changed towards leadership. Thanks so much for tuning in. Stay tuned. Don't forget to subscribe on our YouTube channel. We love you so much.